Okay.
Rachel. Good afternoon, everybody. John Ward, Director of Emergency Management here in Clay County, coming to you from the Emergency Operations Center where our Unified Command is established to respond to COVID-19 here in Clay County. We have our many partners from the Health Department who's got the lead on this, to the Sheriff's Office, Fire Rescue, School District, and many other partner agencies that are working to respond for our citizens here in Clay County. One thing a couple things I'd like to address. One, we took a look on how we were doing our press conferences, and we're going to move our press conferences to what I'm going to call more of a tactical press conference. These conferences are going to be on Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. And what we're going to do is it's going to be opened by myself, Department of Health. Ms. Heather will brief out on any of her pertinent to the 6-foot physical distancing, and then how you're doing your takeout process. So please evaluate that and look as we move forward in this type of event, so we're not having the large crowds inside your facility waiting to get their to-go projects. One of the things we do want to is we want to flatten the curve. We've heard about this since we started this just a few weeks ago, and really we're going to start pushing. You've heard a lot about social distancing. We're going to start pushing its physical distancing. We can stay socially connected in many ways, but it's the physical distancing that we want. We want to see 6 foot in between folks, that type thing as we move forward. With this flattening the curve, which has been successful, we have had cases here in Clay County, which Heather's going to talk about, but we want to lower that curve, which is going to extend it out longer. We're preparing for about a 6 to 8 week response to this in our area. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what we're looking at. But what that means is we're going to have the same amount of cases. It's just going to take longer to get to there, and it's not going to put that strain on our healthcare system. The other thing I want to speak of is regarding our parks. We've been talking this significantly over with our partners here, and we're trying to avoid closing our parks. So what we are going to do, we've been seeing a large group gatherings, whether it be group sports or organized sports at our parks, effective at sundown tonight. All our parks that have either playground equipment, the playground equipment will be closed. As of sundown tonight, we're going to close off all our playground equipment. And then any park that has a large sporting event, football, basketball, baseball, those type courts and venues will be closed. We're going to leave the green spaces open at those respective parks, but we're going to close down those group gatherings to try to avoid that group gathering as we go. The other thing I want to discuss is our boat ramps. Again, we do not want to close our boat ramps, and so far we've seen good response this past weekend of our boats keeping their distance and not group gathering at the boat ramps. Put in the water, go enjoy the beautiful waterways that we have here in Clay County. I want to address Small Business Association. For our small businesses that are impacted, and we know there are many within this county, we want to advise them to make sure and be reaching out to the Clay Chamber, who has been leading the SBA program for us, and I'd like to thank them over there for guiding this for us. But if you go to www.claychamber.com, there's a registration form in there, and they can get your information, and then they will reach out to you to assist you through this process. They're going to be hosting 2 webinars a week, so you can sign up for one of the webinars on there that'll guide you through this process of getting signed up for the SBA grants. Other than that, what I'm going to do is pass it off to Ms. Heather Huffman. I greatly appreciate everybody's patience as we go through this, so I'm going to turn it over to Heather Huffman with the Department of Health.
Thank you, John. So I have 4 items that I want to discuss with the public here today. So the first one is, as of this morning, we're at 35 cases in Clay, 4 deaths. Those age ranges are from 18 to 94 with 12 total hospitalizations. Want to give a little bit of visibility on what that looked like. We've also done 361 total tests for the county, and 323 of those have been negative. So we continue to have some capabilities of testing in the county through our public health lab, especially those that have been contacts to positive COVID. but we also have our regional asset at the TIAA Bank at Lot J for those that are having signs and symptoms of any age. They must have a photo ID with them. They will do up to 250 a day, so it's important if you're having those signs and symptoms to go early in the morning. The second one is the Florida Department of Health does have a dashboard for COVID-19. That's where a lot of the data is you can receive from. So go to floridahealthcovid19.gov. About 3/4 of the page down, you'll be able to find the dashboard, and it will list all the information about testing, positives, negatives, hospitalization, age range, men and women definitions and differences within that dashboard. It's updated twice a day, 11:30 and 6:30, so we'll look for those data points at that on that dashboard. We want to continue to focus on our long-term care facilities, our nursing homes, ALFs. They hold a lot of our vulnerable populations, and we want to continue to monitor them and work with those facilities on proper PPE, but also the assessing of their staff and the ones coming in and out to help with those residents each day. And lastly, the public health advisory that went out last week from Dr. Scott Ribke, he's the state surgeon general, just general about he had issued that anybody age 65 or older, or anybody with underlying health conditions should self-isolate and remain at home during this time period as we're peaking for COVID-19. So we want to make sure that individuals know that and they are staying at home. So as John spoke about, we've used the term social distancing for a long time. We're trying to get away from that a little bit by saying physical distancing, and that includes of 6 feet or more. So we want to continue that. Hand washing, physical distancing, covering your cough or sneeze, and again, seeking medical care when you feel like you're sick or ill. At this point, I will turn this over to the superintendent, Dave Brodsky.
Good afternoon. Clay County District Schools will begin distance learning tomorrow, March 31st. I kind of liken March 31st to the very first day of school in August. That nervous excitement is out there for teachers, for parents, and students as we enter into a new mode of learning at home. Never before in the history of the United States, our state, or Clay County schools, have we shut down all public schools and then said learning is no longer going to occur at the brick and mortar school. It's going to occur at home. I know with that, it creates a lot of nervousness and anxiety among parents, students, and teachers. Let me assure everyone that we're going to go through this process together. It's going to be a learning process, and I would anticipate that questions will arise. Let me reassure everyone that there is support available for when those questions do arise. In fact, Clay County Schools, we have a 4-tier approach to communication, because communication is the key whenever you have a new program entering. One is we have a whole website full of information to help parents and students adjust to this new mode of learning. It's on our oneclay.net/coronavirus website. In addition to helpful videos and tutoring that's there to help with the technology challenges that are there, there's also a format there which parents can interact with to get their student ready. So many parents, teachers, and students have on their own already started getting ready and getting prepared for this. The second phase of communication is with the teacher. You know, good education always starts with the teacher, and so the second part of communication would be the teacher. Then we can always contact the child's school, and if all three of those, we're down to number 4, which is our emergency helpline, which is 336-0090, if there's still questions at that point. It's important that we follow the 4-tier communication plan so that the hotline number doesn't get overloaded to start with, okay? Chromebook registration is going great. We're following all CDC guidelines as far as distancing. Parents simply drive up in their car, receive a Chromebook, and move on. We expect that all of those would be given to parents by the end of this week. And of course, grace and compassion will be used in the process as we all adjust to this new form of learning. We've extended the meals that we're offering to students to 16 schools. We recognize the county schools' responsibility and desire to help all of our families in need. So that expansion, I believe, went from 7 schools now to 16 schools. That begins tomorrow Tomorrow morning from 8 to 9 is breakfast, and then 12 to 1 is lunch. We'll follow the same process. Parents will pull in to the bus loop. They will receive a meal, but it will be handed to them in their car so that they can proceed forward and maintaining social distance, or now physical distance, away from one another. Again, I just want to thank everyone for their patience and cooperation as we enter into this new phase of learning. Nervous excitement within the Clay County School District. I know that many of our teachers have had teacher parades, driving through neighborhoods and whatnot. I think everyone misses the exposure that they have and the interaction that we have. And now our interaction is just going to be different. It's not going to be physical interaction. It's going to be virtual interaction. So we're looking forward to it, and thank you so much. Now I'm going to turn it over to Harold Wanamaker, our county manager.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just an update for our food banks. We're in receipt of deliveries, and we're working with our local food banks for distribution, both at the food banks and individually to coordinate that. So if you're out there and you need food, and please contact your local food bank. Second thing I'd like to talk about is this social distancing, maximizing that, and minimizing social contact or that interaction, i.e. that would be at the playgrounds and ball fields. We took a look at this, really and truly. We've gotten to a point where we need to close those off, but we want to just maximize the green space out there. If you just want to go out there and relax a little bit, get some sunshine, go out there for a run or a jog. Individual sports that are out there, of course, those are highly encouraged. Biking, running, fishing, you name it, that's out there. So please, if there's any questions about that, please just give us a call, 877-252-9362, if there's any questions like that come up. And as John had mentioned also, we just really want to refrain from closing the boat ramps and the kayak launches. Again, we ask you to maximize social distancing and minimize social contact. That's key and critical for our future and where we are. As you look at this timeline and as we continue along this, we are making some strides. When you look at it, we're really into our third week of this, and what we've been putting out, we've been learning a lot, we've been flexing a lot, especially as the superintendent mentioned, utilizing and using technology to our advantage to keep those students at home and away from a group setting that's out there. We also have to take care of each other by checking up on each other. There are a lot of seniors in our community. We should be checking on them. Give them a phone call. Don't go there in person. Just give them a phone call. If they know how to FaceTime or that would be another nice thing to do. Use that technology to your advantage. And offer to pick up their groceries for them. And again, you don't have to really interact too much. If you just go to the grocery store, you have the groceries in your trunk, you can go there and drop them off at the front step or right out of the trunk. So we really wanted to push that and those key things there. Really stress hand washing, refraining from touching your face. It's still a major part of this. And anything else like that where you're just aware of your surroundings. Not touching surfaces or making sure the surface that you are touching has been cleaned, or clean it after you've touched it, are definitely key and critical. Other than that, I'd like to take a moment now to open this press conference up for questioning. So if there are any questions out there.
Question first for the superintendent, if he has a minute. The governor had issued a state closure of schools till April 15th. Yesterday, the president said they want to extend federal guidelines till April 30th. Has there been a discussion yet on whether or not schools will stay closed longer?
No, the governor nor DOE has issued guidance on that. Their stance is to evaluate every 15 days. So I would bet that we're going to hear about that in the near future.
And on the businesses, and this may be for the county manager, on businesses and people talk about, are we confined to our homes, that type of thing. Has Clay increased its measures at all, or are businesses still kind of the way they were last week?
I think many businesses have taken it upon themselves to, i.e. like the mall, and to close and that. We really haven't put out any specific guidance to shutter your business or to close up. As much as can be done, either on the phone, on the internet, or that to conduct a business transaction would be highly encouraged. And then, minimizing that interaction with the customer when they come in to pick up the particular item. We haven't been very specific, though, on that, and really wanted to keep that open just in case somebody needs something that's out there. I think other businesses have also used prudence on having a senior hour or senior couple of hours to participate in shopping. I would highly encourage that and to keep that going, and that's very important, too. Any other questions?
Question for Ms. Huffman. You had said there was an age range of the 35 cases from 18 to 94. Does that imply one of the people with the virus is age 18?
Yes.
Can you say if that person has underlying medical conditions at all?
I wouldn't be able to provide that information to you. We just want to provide the data range of what we're looking at as far as how many people are infected with it. Are we seeing mostly elderly? Are we seeing the age range? I will tell you, we still are seeing on that upper end, you start getting into the 50s, 60s, 70s, more impacts. But we know that this virus doesn't distinguish between an age.
And you say one is 18. Can you say of many beyond that are younger, or is it a very small amount?
No, there's just a few that are on the younger end, in their 20s, if I remember off the top of my head. But typically they're in the upper age range, 50s, 60s, 70s.
And have there been any issues with law enforcement as far as needing to break up gatherings or enforce any issues? Has that been an issue at all?
So it's not been an issue. We have, and that's where I go back to some of our parks. We have had some of the large gatherings, and it's not an enforcement issue. We've just been working with our law enforcement partners who's sitting in unified command with us to kind of go by there and remind them to break up those large groups, because as Ms. Huffman just stated, we have a younger person that has it, so younger people can contract it. The interesting thing is they may not be symptomatic, so they're going to take those symptoms as they're playing, or they're going to take that virus as they're playing amongst each other, and then they're going to take it home to our more vulnerable populations where they can contract it, and it can be bad for them or fatal for them. So we've been using them just to kind of help thin the crowds out.
And if people are seeing these crowds somewhere where they shouldn't be, what's their option? It's kind of confusing. Do I call 911 or?
No, it's not a 911. I think it's just, if it's a repetitive issue, then call the call center at 877-252-9362. But it really is, I think, as we're getting the word out, like I mentioned, on the boat ramps and the congregate places where boats gather. 2 weekends ago, it was very busy. This weekend, as the word's getting out, it was much thinner this week. So I think it's a change in culture from where we're at, and it's just a matter of getting the word out to our folks to try to really push the physical distancing in this.
Will you be monitoring those boat ramps and those kinds of areas where people tend to gather? And if so, if you do see kind of sort of an increased presence, I mean, in Duval, beaches were closed, kind of things like that, will there be some sort of mandate there?
So there's no mandate. Right now, we're really just pushing the thing. Help us. Everybody in Clay County is a first responder to this. We really need to physically distance ourselves to avoid the spread and flatten the curve. We have folks that are monitoring this, but again, it's not there's not going to be a police officer standing there, pushing people around or anything like that. It is really just trying to let people know to do this and try to get them the proper information so we can help each other get through this.
Could there be one down the line?
Could be. It depends on what sort of, again, we're asking our citizens to comply with our recommendations. We're closing the playgrounds and we're closing the large group sporting activities tonight to try to do that. And again, we want to keep green spaces open, but if we still see the repetitive issues, then it may be something we have to do. Yes, ma'am.
In Duval County, this may not be an issue in Clay, I don't know. We've seen issues of large house parties. People go on a Friday night, they all park in front of the house and gather. Has that been an issue that you guys have seen? And if so, what should neighbors?
So it's not been an issue that's been brought to our attention. Are people having parties? More than likely, but it's not been an issue that's been brought to our attention where law enforcement's had to go get involved or anything.
Should they
like
still call that same non-emergency line if it's a
Yes,
concern?
yes, but I think it's just a matter of we need to just educate our citizens to avoid those large gatherings, no group gatherings of 10 or more, and then that physical separation of 6 feet or more with folks outside of your immediate home. Any other questions?
I'm not sure if anyone can answer this, but I know that on Friday, I didn't get a chance to ask this, but uptick in crime. I know in Duval there has been kind of an increase. What are you guys noticing when it comes to crime?
I'd have to defer that to the sheriff's office. I'll have to defer you to Mr. Ford over at the sheriff's office. I can't speak on an increased crime of that. Anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry, emergency responders, any issues with cases of COVID-19 among emergency
No, sir.
responders?
No, sir. Our folks have been well trained and put their PPE on when they go with this, and we've not had any instances within our first responder agencies.
Would you say they all have enough supplies?
Yes, we currently have enough supplies because we've been planning this for literally a couple months. And Clay County leadership had really leaned forward early in preparation for this, so to take care of this, because I think we saw this coming, not this bad, but we saw this coming, so we're able to ramp up on PPE early.
And on the small business loan issue that was talked about, have you guys started to hear from the business community? I don't know who can speak to this, but if there's really been pain from
I think,
this?
yes, we've got a lot of small, what I'm going to call mom and pop businesses in Clay County, that especially in the hospitality area, when the state shut down the hospitality eating in, we saw a lot of impacts in that. And I know we spoke with the chamber this morning, and I believe he said on his first webinar there was going to be 80 plus businesses on that.
And have there been any violators of that have tried to remain open, maybe under the
None that's been brought to our attention yet, no, sir. Anything else? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate it.